Hello YouTube viewers, welcome to my show Camera Tuesday. In today's episode we're going to talk about Panasonic EVA1. So let's dive right into it. So what the heck it is basically the smallest cinema camera that you can get. Now in terms of cinema camera, it must have a good sensor for it. Yes, it has Super 35. Be aware, even though it says 35, it's not full frame. Full frame in video industry or in movie industry is classified as large format. So please be aware, Super 35 is more close to APS-C sensor size. That's what APS-C is like. It's just a bit more narrow. Basically it's wide angle. Super 35, so that is the sensor size. Again, it's a cinema camera, so it has interchangeable lens system. Now EF mount. Now if you have checked my last video about the Blackmagic system, you must know Blackmagic had the luxury of changing the mount itself, so you can have PL mount, Nikon mount, Canon mount and all that. Here you don't have that luxury. Here you simply have EF mount. That's it, Canon mount. Now you might be wondering why the heck Panasonic is using Canon mount when they have their own Micro Four Thirds system. It's just that Micro Four Third, while it can cover most of the 35mm, basically Super 35, the edges will be black. That's why the projection area is not big enough. Then it's a 4K 60 frames per second camera, so good enough, and it does 4:2 up to 10 bit, more than good enough. Basically, if you have this camera, you don't have to worry about color depth and all that. And it uses, in terms of recording media, dual SD card, and this has one thing very unique to itself. Basically almost no other cinema camera has that. Is electronic image stabilization. So what is the core of it? Like basically what's behind everything? Basically Panasonic's big gamble point was 5.7K Super 35mm sensor. So basically sensor size is exactly the same, but pitch is much smaller, so it has much higher resolution. Basically megapixel is higher. The benefit of that is that what's allowed is to do electronic image stabilization. There is a reason why you don't have electronic image stabilization in almost any other camera. Basically, let's say other video cameras like Canon C200, their sensor is exactly 4K, so they can't crop in. Now in terms of Blackmagic, it's 0.4, so they don't have that much wiggle room. Here they have comfortable amount of wiggle room, so they can have like shrink the field of view, so they will become a smaller square, cropped, and then they can move that area around electronically much faster. So this is how they get electronic image stabilization, which is very unique. If you are doing, let's say, and because you can mount Canon electronically image stabilized lens also, you can have both of them working together, so that will give you a very good run and gun shooting environment. Like that advantage is something that you must understand, especially if you have some gimbal that is not very stable or well balanced. This camera can still handle it. That is unique advantage to 5.7K sensor. Now it has dual native ISO, which is very necessary nowadays, because everybody wants to push low light. Low light is like all the rage nowadays. So what they did is basically, okay, have one circuit which is high voltage or basically high signal to noise ratio or 800 ISO, and then they have another which is at 2400 ISO, specifically focused for low voltage, as in low light scenarios. So they have two of them, so that way you can literally have, oh, you're shooting in daytime, just use 800, you're shooting at nighttime, use 2400. So it gives them much more coverage in terms of light capability. Now, and it also has the luxury of internal ND filters and IR filter. Now that IR filter is basically on off, basically that is infrared filter. Now that's not that necessary for most of the people, but some scenario, let's say you want to have a night vision kind of feel to your video, you can literally have a lot of IR emitters, and they will be flooding the area with IR, and disable the IR filter in the camera, and you will get night vision kind of feel. Like it will add night vision. Many times cinema camera do that indirectly. They will like put some change the sensor, remove some things. That's how you will get that horror movie night vision kind of vibe to it. So there is a lot of flexibility in terms of the core because of that 5.7K sensor. Now, what are the pros of it? Like, why would you want to bother with this versus someone else with like Canon C200 or Blackmagic itself? Now, you have to understand, this puppy is super sharp. If you are not doing electronic image stabilization, let's say you are mounted it on a tripod or things of that nature, because if you detect, disable that EIS, it will take that whole 5.7K image size and then compress it. So you will get a very clean image, and in terms of sharpness, it is mind-bogglingly sharp. Now, again, be aware, many people don't like sharp videos simply because it looks ugly, because and especially if you have female models, their face will look like all wrinkly and all that, so you may not like that. But again, it's much easier to make something blurry in post than making blurry things into sharp things. And because it's super sharp, let's say you are doing a sci-fi short film or something like that, having a crisp video file will help you do green screening much more effectively. So that is the luxury of it. This is sharp. Like mind-bogglingly sharp. Like comparatively, from Sony to Canon C200 to Blackmagic URSA Mini 4.6K G2, this is the sharpest camera among the bunch. So you have to be like, if you buy this camera, you don't have to ever worry about sharpness. Then it is very lightweight. Now this is one thing that cannot be conveyed just by seeing the camera or just by watching YouTube videos. Just take my word for it. Even if you have to hold a DSLR for long enough, it will start to tire your arm. Imagine holding up a Blackmagic. Can you do that? Yes. Should you do that? Hell no. Like in movie industry, whenever somebody has to hold up, like let's say a red epic or something like that, they generally wear full body harness. Basically there would be like a bulletproof vest kind of thing they will wear, and then there will be a long rod behind it. That rod will become forward, then that's how they are taking the weight. And not to mention that cameraman cannot continuously do that. They literally have to take a rest. Now thankfully in movie they don't have long shots, so they will basically do the shooting and then stop, then shoot the shooting and all that. You have to understand that takes a lot of energy, intensity, and the person who's doing this kind of heavy lifting, literally they will charge you more. So very lightweight really makes an advantage, and that advantage is really prominent in terms of indie filmmaking. Let's say you want to use something like a cheap basically gimbal, electronic gimbal. This is lightweight enough that you can use normal gimbals. You don't need cinema grade gimbals. That is another. And in terms of drones, you can buy a smaller drone to take care of it. That's also a plus advantage. Then these two things are very practical, like a very sharp video that will make your green screening very easy, and in terms of basically lightweight, it allows you to use it more effectively. Even your tripod cost will become lighter. Then it comes to recording option. This is one thing that Panasonic has nailed down, and Panasonic is very good at it. Is basically they give you hell lot of option. Now two of the primary option they give you is GOP and I recording. I recording is simply, what does it mean? Really all the frames, basically every frame that is being captured is recorded directly. GOP is basically takes 10 of them and compresses it into one. Basically and it's not like, okay, you are getting 10 frames per second instead of 60. All it will do is like record the changes among them. So data bandwidth is half. Basically you will go from, let's say at I recording you will be needing 400 Mbps small b, and in terms of GOP recording you will be needing 150 Mbps. So if you have a cheaper memory card or you want to be more space efficient, you can use that. So this is the luxury of Panasonic system. They have lot of option. So let's say you are doing an interview, you don't need lot of color, like unless you have like something very extravagant. You don't need, like it's just a flat room with a normal person sitting in, so you will simply say, hey, 420 recording. But let's say now somebody hires you to do a Mercedes commercial, you can say, hey, 422. So it has a lot of option. And let's say you are doing something fast-paced, action-based, you want to have as sharpness as possible, so you will do I recording. You are doing something slow-paced, methodical, slow burn kind of short movie or movie like that, use GOP recording. So this luxury is very unique to Panasonic system. Now again, most people say, hey, just record raw and then process it. Again, if you have the powerful computer, not an issue. Most people don't. So the fact that it has recording option, and by the time version 3 firmware has launched, they also support 265 recording, H265, basically HVAC recording. This is very awesome because now your data footprint goes down by a factor of 4. Now bare minimum, depending on I recording, you can get like 30% saving, and GOP, if done correctly, you can get upwards of 4 times the recording capacity. That means instead of spending 1 terabyte per hour, you will be able to record 2 hours per terabyte. That is really helpful, like especially if you have to do lot of interviews. So people who do lot of interview and they want to make sure they don't run out of network attached storage space, this is a really useful thing. These are the little things that helps your life move along much more effectively. Then it also has dual SD card UHS 2 slot. Now if you are not familiar about UHS 2, you can check my detailed video about SD cards here. So that's also very familiar about anybody who's using Micro Four Third or DSLR for filmmaking. So, and it does take the V90 cards. They suggest don't go below V60. So check that video about SD card, you will understand more of those things. Basically don't go below V60, and because you can remove the handle, you can strip it down much more, like a top handle, side handle, you can make it as light as possible. But if it's that good, then why the heck it's not popular and everywhere? One simple reason, even though they're saying cinema camera, everybody expects cinema camera to do raw recording. For some reason they forgot that, or many people are speculating is that simply it cannot do raw because it's using SD card. That's a bad decision basically. Not to mention UHS-2 SD cards are like very fast. They can go up to 300 or 400 Mbps, capital B, which is 8 times higher than small b. So they could have done that, and they don't need, like, you know, when they say raw, you don't need 1 by 1 raw. Most people don't even touch that unless you are like big blockbuster Avatar or Avengers Endgame. You don't touch that. Most people are like 1 by 3 raw, 1 by 16 raw. You have to compress it that much, otherwise the file sizes are ludicrous. So they could have done that. Like, it was doable, they just did not do it. So, and this is odd given the fact that Sony does this, Blackmagic does this, Canon C200 does it. Like, if all your competitor is doing this, you have to do it, even though people will not use it, because they have the luxury of multiple other choices. At first, like when you buy a new camera, you're like, hey, I'm gonna do raw recording and I'm gonna spend like freaking 5 hours just to color grade it. Of course, at early on you will try that, then you're like, okay, this is my LUT, I'm gonna save this LUT, that's it. So once you reach that state, you don't need raw. Like, of course, if you can upload the LUTs, which you can do in this. So the fact that they removed the raw, basically don't have it, that's just bad. That flat out, half of the community is like, yep, I'm not touching it unless it has raw. Now, raw recording is also useful for students. Basically, let's say you are a student and you completed your movie course and you want to go into the world. You want raw files because you want to really push your work, especially at the early of the career, and you really want to take advantage of every single technological hoo-ha. Not having that is a bad advantage. On top of that, it does not have continuous autofocus. It has image stabilization but does not have continuous autofocus, which is kind of odd mix, because if you are running and gunning, you want your autofocus to be completely maintained. It's very difficult to do that in real life. So this is very problematic. Now again, this gives an advantage to Canon C200, but almost any other camera will fail, same as this. So that's not too much of an issue, but for YouTubers and vloggers, makes it difficult. Now the final thing that is like really what the hell Panasonic is, they have bad LCD. Like, everybody complains about the LCD. It's so reflective, like it's literally looks like early Chinese phone, as in like 2008 to 2015 kind of Chinese phone. Like, it's a reflective, like they have to bake the sun shade in directly, otherwise you will not be able to see anything. It's just way too reflective, even in, like, you know, low lit scenarios. So LCD is bad, and it's also very small. Like, it's a big camera, of course, compared to a DSLR is big, and compared to other cinema camera is small, but again, it's a big thing. You expect the screen to be big, so that is a problem thing. Like, that kills every other aspect of it. Everything is light, everything is functional, everything does what it's supposed to do. Image is super sharp, but unless you buy another dedicated 4-inch or 5-inch recorder or screen system, you can't do that. Thankfully, with latest update, they have SDI 6G output, which I specified. This camera is not for broadcast. Blackmagic is. Blackmagic can do SDI 12G output, so it can do 4K 60 frame per second continuous live broadcast. This cannot do that. However, it can do 5.6K raw output that you can record. You don't expect it to do like a live broadcasting, but it can do raw recording. So, but again, externally you can do that. You have to do that. And if you really want to push the sensor, because sensor is really good, but again, the fact that onboard screen is really that bad is like really flats out, puts people off. It's like, dude, what's the point? Like, you're supposed to be run and gun. Your LCD should be good. Everything else, most people don't need raw recording. Most people don't even care about continuous autofocus if they're serious about videography. Because you must understand that people have like director of photography, which a person dedicated to pulling focus puller. There is a guy whose job is that. Like, I will take care of the focus. So that's not an issue. It's just having such a bad LCD. Like, from Panasonic. Panasonic knows how to make good LCD. It's just... that is why this camera did not become as popular as it should have been, because it does have certain things that are really good. So this was my presentation on Panasonic EVA1. I hope you liked it, learned from it. In that case, please leave a like. If you didn't like it or did not enjoy it, please dislike button. I would urge you to press it twice to show me your extra disappointment, and please leave a comment because I reply to all of them. And check my whole channel, because I have like upwards of 200 videos. You may enjoy some of them. And subscribe, press the bell icon if you're free. And as always, thanks for watching.